it's not so much emotional health, it's emotional fitness.
Your emotional health, or if you have disease, is not your fault, and it isn't.
Agreed.
But it is your responsibility.
Welcome everybody to the Dream Lifestyle Podcast. In today's conversation, we are going to be talking about how to improve your emotional health. We're going to be talking about how you need to spend time with yourself. We're going to be discussing how you need to identify your triggers, and we're going to be talking about how to take proper action to improve your emotional health. And to have this conversation, I have my friend and brother CJ is back again. It's good to have you, sir.
Thank you.
Of course. So let's dive straight on in, because I know that emotional health is definitely a topic that I'm interested in. It's a topic that you're passionate about. Let's just kick off at the top with emotional health, spending time with yourself. What does that look like to you? How does spending time with yourself benefit someone's emotional health?
I once heard this educator, he was giving this TED talk, and he said that sometimes we treat our bodies like they're just the carriers of our mind. How we feel disconnected from our body sometimes. And I think it starts for me when you have a holistic understanding of who you are as a person, that you have a spirit, that you have a body, and you have a mind. And a self-assessment of where those pieces connect is where I think everybody should start.
Yeah.
Your emotional health will determine the way that you live your life. It'll determine how your day goes. It will determine the way that people perceive you. That old phrase that everybody kind of goes by that says, you often won't remember what someone does, but you'll certainly remember how someone made you feel.
Absolutely.
So if we start out by really understanding who we are fundamentally and addressing those concerns, it fortifies us. It gives us good information that allows us to kind of propel our lives, the lives of the people we care about, and our community to better places.
Yeah, I like that too, because I will say, even in my own journey with improving my own emotional health, it really did start with getting to know myself at different emotional states.
Yeah.
So, there were times where, I'd be frustrated, but didn't quite put language behind, no, I'm just frustrated right now.
Yeah.
So I responded that way. And it wasn't until, and that's just one example, but it wasn't until I started really connecting the dots between like how I'm feeling versus with the actions I'm taking, that I actually started to discover, okay, I see how all this stuff is starting to connect in terms of the mind, body, soul, spirit piece that you said, that now I'm able to go out into the world and I'm able to say, okay, where am I at right now in that scale?
Mm-hmm.
How am I feeling? Because I believe that emotional health is, and I heard it expressed where it's not so much emotional health, it's emotional fitness.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, mental health is not necessarily mental health, it's more of mental fitness.
Yeah.
Where if I'm able to work the muscle of my awareness of my emotions, now I give myself the power to go out into the world the way I need to. Because I think that emotional health, emotional fitness is being confused with being emotional. Because it's okay to be emotional. It's okay. But I believe, especially for men, I'm gonna put my flag here on this hill.
Go ahead.
I believe that one of the reasons that's why society looks the way that it does is because more people are leaning towards just being emotional as opposed to being emotionally healthy. And it's leading to a lot of people, particularly men, being ineffective. Because it's one thing, like, I'm afraid, like, there's no reason why, if, just use a basic example, if the first of the month is coming, sure, I may feel away, but I still have something to do. And I think there's so many people, I'm just generalizing it, but there are a lot of people that will use the way they feel as a crutch, which stops them from being effective.
I think there's a process. And I think staying on men is really interesting. When you think historically, our role in society has been these protectors. Throughout this kind of world, we've always we're the first ones to die. We stand up when there's trouble. And people are like, man, now men are crying. Mm-hmm. Well, things are sad sometimes.
Absolutely.
1, 2, if you spend your life without understanding your emotions, you will just die early like every other man for generations have. it's one of those things that there's a paradox that we have to explore here, because we're the same people who tell children, little boys, "Oh, you're tough, don't cry,"
Mm-hmm.
and then when that little boy is 20 years older and gets into a marriage, and she's like, "I can't get close to you,
Right. 100%.
I don't
100%.
understand. I don't understand you."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I've been told for 20 years that my position was to provide for this house, and you should leave me alone.
Right.
That we don't cry." So I think there has to be a middle ground that is established. No one likes when everybody operates just on their emotions. It's annoying
Absolutely.
because you become untenable, untethered. You just kind of
You just go with whatever, you go with the wind.
You
Like
go
we don't
with
know
the wind.
we don't know what version of you we're going to get.
and nobody likes an unstable person. What does the Bible say? No one likes a double-minded man. Like
Yes.
we can't be unstable. So I think we have to find the sweet spot essentially.
Yeah.
Of understanding our emotions, understanding that our emotions are some things that shouldn't be acted on, but they are information that is guiding us.
That's so good.
So, man, you said that, it hurt me. If I understand that, I can use that and I can change the way that I speak to you. I can explain to you how what you did was hurtful or harmful, and how I could even understand that you didn't even mean it that way, but that's how it came across. And then I can work together with you to communicate effectively what I need from you and still be a man and still be strong. I think where it goes too far is when that becomes your identity.
Yes.
I often hear it said that your emotional health, or if you have disease, is not your fault. And it isn't.
Agreed.
But it is your responsibility. And so we make good decisions based on good information. We get the information by understanding who we are as people. It's the self-assessment that you go through a day being like, why am I sad now? Like, I just went to the store.
Yeah.
You didn't realize on the way when you were listening to the news, something got on you,
Mm-hmm.
something got into you, and it triggered something from when you were a child.
Right.
The self-assessment helps you realize, oh man, that happened. That's an experience, but it isn't me. I'm more than this. And I can use that information to make sure, one, I help other people who are struggling with that thing, but also now I don't go spending the rest of the day huffing and puffing throughout life because it's not all that.
If you're in the DMV area and you are ambitious, I'm inviting you to the Dreamer Symposium. This is a one-day experience for you to get clear on what you want in the new year. And if you're tired of setting New Year's resolutions without seeing results, this is your solution. This is a proven faith-based experience for you to turn your ambition into action for 2024 success. And all you have to do is get your ticket in the room. So click the button below me and I will see you on December 16th.
Right. Oh, that's so good.
So I think that's the difference. I think we want men to have emotions. We just don't want them to use it as excuses for not doing the work that we expect them to do.
Yes. And that's basically my entire point.
Yeah.
Like, because I believe, to your point, there is a great middle ground where I think when the whole emotional health, mental health conversation started, like it was very much the pendulum was, don't cry, get the work done, who cares, forget your feelings, that type of thing. And then the pendulum started moving towards, no, why are you angry? Like you have a lot of pressure on you and everything. But now this is just my opinion from what I've seen, it's starting to kind of teeter towards, to your point earlier, where it's like, why is that? Are you still that way? You still sad? Like what version are we getting today? Like I don't even want to invite you to the cookout because like, we don't know what you're gonna get. We all here having a good time. You're gonna come in doom and gloom. Like what? But I think to your point, that self-assessment piece is important. Like all of us should have some level of self-assessment, self-reflection in our day-to-day life. Like for me, I self-reflect a lot in the mornings. That's just my time, right? So I think through, all right, this is how I'm feeling today.
Yeah.
Whether it's, you get up on the wrong side of the bed, so to speak, or, I feel really good today. All right, well, why? Well, I got a good rest, had a good dream. Like you kind of go through the mental process of, okay, well, what led me to feeling this way? And then it's like, all right, well, if that made me feel good, let me see how I can add to that, right? Like even your example of if someone goes to the store, why all of a sudden do I feel sad, right?
Yeah.
Like if you don't take the time to self-reflect, you won't actually be able to discover ways and tools in which to either avoid
Yeah.
or to lean into more, right? Because obviously, if you feel really good, right, if you feel really confident, you should keep doing that thing that makes you feel really sad. You should be able to identify, build an emotional awareness. Okay, why that made me sad? Let me do less of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Or now that I understand what the stimulus is that's triggering me, I think that was our next point.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think it becomes less sensitive over time. You go through a breakup and you hear that song, and you're like, that was
our song.
That was our song. That was our song.
Yeah.
And guess what happens over time? It still is your song, but you realize that I'm okay. I'm better. It was an experience that brought me to another experience that's making me even the better. And so it's not a sadness, becomes like a joy.
Yeah, it's like,
remember that?
Yeah, it's like an acceptance. To me, like for me, in my experience, whether it was in relationships, whether it was just in life, there's just an acceptance of like, oh no, that happened. Like wow, I really used to like literally a song came on the other day and I was like, man, this song used to really tear me up. Like, man. But now it's like you kind of laugh about it because it's like, wow, like that was that version of me. Like I remember that period of time and it was great. It was a period of time. It was temporary. I made sure it was temporary. But now again, you look back and it's like, wow, all right, like I accept it. Like that was what it was.
Look, I have this idea. Nobody likes it ever when I tell them this idea, but I would love to have a lunch with every person I've ever dated. And I would bring Sam, my beautiful girlfriend, and we would all just talk.
Man.
No, nobody wants to do it. Nobody's.
I don't know if that'll happen.
Nobody is RSVP'd. In past relationships, I've asked at the end, like, "Hey, don't forget about my lunch," and they're like, "No, we're not going to that."
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
But because there's an idea that the things that happen to us and the experiences we have don't collect. I believe they're all on purpose for a purpose.
Yeah.
And so you taught me some things.
Right.
You were generous and kind. I wouldn't be in a relationship with you if you weren't. I want to spend time around in places where I grew. I don't know. Nobody likes the idea, but I think
it's a powerful suggestion. Now, I don't know how practical it is in that arena. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I love that idea and that concept of just, all of this happened for purpose, on purpose. Mm-hmm. And each, at least in using your example of, past relationships, each of you played a role in this in the same way you played a role for them, right? There was information gathered, there were experiences had, there were lessons learned, there was, painful memories, there were great memories and everything in between. And so let's all just be aware.
Yeah.
Right. Like I know for me, before I met my fiance, I took an intentional month of really assessing, like in the relationship category of my life, what did I like? Mm-hmm. What didn't I like? What were my green flags, red flags? Like I went through the whole gambit.
Yeah.
So that way, when it was time, when I knew I was ready to start dating again, I knew exactly what I was looking for. I was able to the point earlier, do more of the things that I liked that served me well and do less of the things I knew I didn't like because I had that awareness and I was aware of not only myself and I was aware of my triggers because all of us have triggers. And the thing about triggers, I don't like how triggers gets like this negative connotation because there are triggers. All of us have triggers that'll make us sad. All of us have triggers that make us mad. There are also triggers for happiness.
Yeah.
There's triggers for joy. Like literally, if I see a spades game being played, that's a trigger for happiness for me. Like I like the playing spades. Like that's a fun thing, right? But I think because, again, words have so much power. That's why I love language. A lot of times when people hear the word triggers, especially in the emotional health context, it's always, well, what trauma, what traumatic, what horrible thing happened to you, which again is included.
It is,
but it's not the full picture. And if we as individuals never take the time to explore that other side, where we always are exploring, at least if we're trying to identify our triggers, the doom and gloom, like what triggers me to do X, Y, Z, fill in the blank. And I never look at, well, what triggers me to just be happy? What triggers me? You know what I mean? Like you're never actually going to even be able to assign reward to doing things that are healthy for you. Like, we've talked about this before where like, to me, I think for anyone that wants to improve their life, if you want to improve your life in any area, start going to the gym.
Yeah.
And the only reason why is because that is the only place where you will clearly be able to see results.
Yeah.
And so when you reach a place, especially with going to the gym, where you're able to, wow, I mean, I was really sore, like that sucked. But man, like I lost a couple inches. Like I lost, you know, and you get to see that progress, you start feeling really, really good.
I think I love that you identify that. And it's the exact same. It's that emotional fitness that I'm going to do the reps. The rep is I'm going to realize what's going on. I'm going to do that self-assessment. I'm going to walk into the world now with this information. Triggers are just information. Right. Some good, some bad. And again, if something's really happened to you, I'm so sorry. Like, life has a way of putting you in situations where, especially my heart always goes out to children. Like, people will make real poor decisions with children. And that kind of stuff changes how you see the whole world. And so we're not saying that this is going to be an easy journey.
Absolutely.
But if I go into a gym and I have never lifted and then I try to pick up 225, I'm going to get crushed by the weight of it. So it's about taking the steps that you need to every single day. You pick up a little bit. Man, this thing wrecked my life. You pick it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that inch that you get every single day working in that gym, you develop a different body. Your muscles grow. And so in the same way in our emotional health, we have to pick up the traumatic things as well as the good things. Yeah. We use that information to help us grow as people. And what it ends up happening is when we walk out into the world now with all this information, we make better choices. Now I know what I can lift. Now I'm not going to pick up anything too heavy. I can't watch that movie.
Yeah.
I can't.
I can't even watch that genre of movies.
I can't.
Yeah.
And once you start to realize, okay, this is just not for me. It's going to put me into a space that's going to change the rest of my day. And I have so much life to live and I want to impact so many people. You start making better decisions about the way that you walk through the world, the things that you listen to, the things that you watch. And then now you take that information and you make better decisions.
Yes.
It's fundamentally about growing.
Yeah. And I think even too, when you're able to identify those triggers, you then have to take an objective look outside of yourself to see, okay, if this is a trigger and it's something that, and let's say it's a negative trigger that I'm going to stay away from, am I still able to be a functioning human in society?
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, if someone has a negative trigger and they're like, I can't go to certain grocery stores. And it's like, if that's the only grocery store that's around you, like you're not able to really function well. Like I can't go to the Stop and Shop. I can't go to the ShopRite because it just reminds me of fill in the blank, right? And again, I don't want to make light of anybody's stuff, but you want to be able to identify that trigger, be able from objective view, okay, am I able to not do this thing and I'm still able to be a normal person in society? Normal just meaning like I'm able to do what I need to do on a day-to-day level, take care of my needs and stuff like that. And then you're able to say, okay, I can fully just stay away from it. Or to your point, let me take small action steps. Let me face this trauma so that way I can get to a place of health and fitness and acceptance of what happened to me, but now I'm still able to function.
Yeah.
And that's even to the point where I said earlier about how people entering a space of they'd rather be emotional than just be emotionally fit. Because ultimately you want to be able to function well in society. Like it's not about, just feeling, right? Like your emotions are information. I love how you said that.
Yeah.
Triggers is nothing more than information.
Yeah.
And you want to be able to use that information to your benefit.
Exactly. And I think the next step, oftentimes, if you realize and you're doing all this work and you identify like, it's too heavy for me, find someone who can help you lift it.
That's good.
For me, it's been my therapist for the last several years. He helps me pick up weights that I'd never thought I would be able to pick up. He helps me think in ways that help me function better. Sometimes when you go to the gym, you need a trainer.
Absolutely.
And so in the same way, when we're trying to work on our fitness, we need to get around people who have done the work to understand how our bodies work and how our emotions work. And they can give you the tips and tricks to get that little bit. You just turn that elbow just a little bit in.
Yeah.
And this weight's going to go up. You need to, if you really need to, and I think it's honestly most people, you need to talk to someone who's a professional. because it'll give you those tips and tricks to make the big things a little bit smaller and definitely more manageable.
Yeah, and I think that leads into the taking action piece of it all, right? Where it's like, okay, we do the self-assessment, right? We understand ourselves, we identify our triggers, we get that information, but now we got to really do something about it, right? And there's two types where it's either, okay, I can do the work by myself, right? I can just stop going over there, I can just stop doing these things, I can, journal, whatever, and I'm good. Or to your point, I'm just going to get a professional. I'm going to find a way, use my resources so that way I can get help in handling this trauma, get help in handling this pain point for me so that way I can go on and live a functional and healthy life.
Yeah.
And I think that so many times holds people back from really walking in all that's there for them, that God has for them, because they don't want to take the necessary action because, it might be stigmatized or it might be scary or whatever. And it's like, your life is on the line. Yeah. Like, truthfully. And that's the way you should look at it. Like, where it's like, no, your life is on the line. So you really should do what's necessary, whether that's, again, talk with somebody, talk with a therapist, talk with your pastor, talk with your parents, talk with your significant other, like whatever it is, talk to somebody. Because even in talking, again, to my point where I always say, like, you never lose. Yeah. They're either going to handle you well or they're not going to handle you well. That's still information for you to use and leverage.
When I was going through like my hardest times, it kind of made me think of this analogy, this metaphor. Oftentimes we're like people who build igloo in the middle of a winter storm. The weirdest thing about igloos is that they're very warm inside. It's made out of really cold stuff, but it has an insulating property to it. And when we sit inside, we can find comfort in something made out of our own trauma. So I'm sad, I'm depressed, I don't want anybody near me. I want to bring things in real close. And so because I'm depressed, I'm going to see the world through that. And I'm going to set up shop in the midst of a storm. And guess what? I'm going to act out. If I've been hurt and somebody abused me, then I'm going to choose to be promiscuous because I have the agency over myself now. I was hurting this way, and so the way that I find my strength is to use the very thing that hurt me to make a home. And then we have good people who like, I don't know how to get it. It's too dark here. It's comfortable though.
Yeah.
It feels safe. You're still in the middle of the storm, but you found some warmth and you found some comfort there. And then someone says, walk with me. Come, let's get out of this. You're like, it's cold out there.
Right.
Do you know what I experienced?
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Do you know how that hurt me? So I choose my body. I use it the way that I want. You just made an igloo out of the stuff that hurt you. And so it's a long walk often to safety.
Yes.
And so people often make judgments about people, especially with their emotional health, or if they end up getting caught in like things like addiction. I always kind of understand their position because drugs feel good.
Yeah.
When I'm hurting people feels good.
Right.
When I've been abusing others makes me feel like I have a sense of power when I didn't have one. It takes effort to walk out into the storm. Now, if you've been there long enough, and I know there's some people who have been there a long time, at that point you put up pictures, like all the company that you invite, they also live in igloos too, because you don't want to be close to anybody who's living on the beach. But the trick is, and it makes me sad sometimes to say this because it feels like it's not a big thing. You just got to take a step.
Yeah, it's just one step.
It's just one step.
One step, one action step. And I will say, to just encourage anybody out there, like, God never wastes a pain. Mm-mm. We're having a really great conversation about emotional health. And I think what is a great conversation because we're giving really practical action steps to, stay at a place of emotional fitness and
Yeah.
mental fitness and everything like that. But we never want to overlook the fact that there's somebody listening out there
Yeah.
that has been through the worst, where you might have had your agency taken from you. You might have lost somebody. Life happens. We know that the word says that the devil only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And for some people out there, the devil has stolen, he's killed, and he's destroyed some things in your life. And I want to be the one to tell you, as someone that I've dealt with suicidal ideation, I've dealt with depression, I've dealt with anxiety, I've dealt with these things. God will never waste a pain, because he always puts things together for good for those who believe in him. And I'm telling you that if you'd make the decision to take one small step, not a big one, whether it's, again, for me, my one big step was getting up and brushing my teeth every day when I was at my lowest of lows. Like, that was my one big step. My one big step was brushing my teeth, because I wanted to just be in my room, in bed, lights off, But I truly want to encourage anybody, take that one small step to improve your life, and not just improve your life for success and things. Take one small step that will save your life, because your life is worth it. I know that it might not feel that way. I know that, things might not have come out the way you expected them to. I know you may have experienced disappointment, but I'm telling you, stay the course. Your life is worth it. It's worth it to go out of your igloo.
Yeah.
There's so much more out there for you in your igloo, but you have to take that step, one step at a time. However you got to take it.
The Bible says, I come because I want you to have life, and life more abundant.
That's what I'm talking about.
And so you take that step, and that step leads to another step. Oh, you might actually even run back in. Life got scary again. Come back out.
Yeah.
Start walking again.
Yeah.
Every single day, brush your teeth, comb your hair, talk to somebody, ask for help. Oh man, that person, they said they would help me. They didn't help. Ask another person. I think the steps are just the same thing as we're working on any kind of health. It's getting good people around you.
Yes.
Not people who say, man, wow, what was you? That life's so bad. But people who say, man, you're fundamentally better than this.
Yes.
And that these experiences that you have will be the things that you will help other people. And guess what? At a point in your life, you'll be so good that you will go start knocking on some igloos and be like, come out.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
And I'm gonna hold. You're weak. It's cold out. It's cold out here. It's warmer back inside with your trauma. It's warmer back inside with your addiction. It feels good, but if you take a couple steps with me, we get far enough into the sun, the storm won't always last.
So good.
And in the end, you stand. I always like to see it as standing on a beach with the sun and the water kind of crashing upon your feet. There's a freedom.
Yes.
So do the steps that we talked about. You really need to do self-assessment. Hey, why am I in the same thing over and over again?
Yeah.
This is the same dude again. This was Gerald and Daryl and Darnell. Why is it the same dude? Because you're just stuck in that. You saw your mom get abused. That became what you thought love looked like. Yeah. And so now these dudes abuse you, and you're like, this is
right, same old cycle.
It's the same cycle.
Got to identify those cycles.
And then you meet a dude, and he's like, man, I love you, and you're good, and you're worthy. And you're like, this dude is lame. Because you don't have any experience with this.
Right. No point of reference.
Your safety is in being in situations that put you in roller coasters, because that's what it felt like as a child. Take a step away. It can be better. You can be loved, and it could feel just most of the time good.
Yeah.
So that there's radical freedom at the end of understanding your own emotional health. And it will change the way that you live. It'll change the way that your family lives. So now your daughter doesn't see it either.
Yeah.
Because you picked a good dude who's kind of boring because he goes to work every day, but he's always home at 5. And he always makes sure he picks up his daughter as soon as he walks in the door. She gets to see a fundamentally different version. So you get blessed and your child gets blessed. And now when your mom sees this dude in this, it sets off this reaction that changes everyone in your community. Once you start to understand that the trauma, it's not fair. You shouldn't have experienced it. People took advantage of you. But if you can step far enough away from it to gain the perspective to realize that I'd rather just be free.
Yeah.
And I want everybody behind me to be free. And if I make this choice, I saw this TikTok and it just blessed me. It was this girl. She said, "Man, I'm a generational curse breaker.
That's good. That's good.
I stand on the precipice of better for my family. And if I do it right, if I take these steps, I continue to walk forward, I continue to do self-assessment, then the sun that we'll all stand in is going to be so bright." So yeah, it's important.
That's so good. That's so good, man. Well, look, I hope that you guys got value out of this amazing conversation, because we certainly had a blast having it.
Yeah.
Man, be sure to share this with somebody. Share this with somebody. Please, I implore you.
Yeah.
I will even go as far to beg you. Share this with somebody, because you never know what anybody else is going through.
Never.
And this could be the very conversation that they need to hear that can save their life. So be sure, of course, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, but share this with somebody that you love and care about. Of course, as always, as you prepare for next week's conversation, go check out last week's conversation.
Yeah.
Man, this was a blessing. This really was a blessing. And of course, you guys know, always remember, your dream is possible as long as you're willing to work for it. We'll see you guys next week.